Hi, my name is Erin Todd. I'll be guiding today's session as part of my mock counseling demonstration for Indiana Wesleyan University. So today I'll demonstrate some basic counseling competencies while working with a client presenting with anxious attachment, relational trauma, and difficulty letting go of a past relationship. This relationship is with a dismissive, avoidant partner. So there is definitely some unresolved grief there. Today's session, and then the sessions to follow, of course, but today's session is going to focus on building emotional safety, exploring attachment dynamics, and gently kind of helping the client explore and get into the process of, you know, dealing with the loss and kind of begin to regain self-regulation, and hopefully some additional tools and other things, and eventually work on self-esteem and self-compassion and things like that as well. So I've been seeing this client, her name is Jennifer, for the last couple of months now. And the idea here is that she came to me a couple months ago and was interested in doing EMDR. So we're kind of working towards that, and we're still kind of in the exploration stage where we're setting up for that a little bit. So I'm trying to explore the attachment dynamics and a few other things. So you're going to see kind of a mix between narrative therapy, um, some emotional regulation techniques, somatic awareness, some EMDR inspired techniques and approaches, um, and a few other approaches. I kind of make this blend. It's more of an eclectic thing because I like to design it around what the client needs. And I think everyone needs a little bit of something different. So again, her name is Jennifer, and here we go. So Jennifer's walking in now. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you so much for being here. So before we dive in, I just want to acknowledge how much courage it takes to show up and kind of face this stuff and open up and talk about these painful experiences. So I appreciate that you called me and that we scheduled this. And I just want to go ahead and commend you for showing up and even dealing with this head on. So I also want you to know you're in a safe space, in a very safe space. So this is a non-judgment zone, and I just want you to be able to open up and feel safe here and feel connected, and feel like you can be as transparent as possible, because healing is the most important thing to me for you. So why don't we start off with this? Maybe just take a moment to land here, and let's just take a small moment here to take a deep breath in through the nose, hold, and breathe out. Really feel it in the diaphragm and let your belly expand as you breathe in. Hold just a moment and breathe out. Any tension you're feeling, just let it go. Maybe take one more deep breath in through the nose. Hold. Out through the mouth. Very good. How you feeling? A little better? I know you're kind of anxious coming in. All right, so to begin, would it feel okay to check in about how you've been emotionally since our last conversation? Yeah? Okay. So since we last spoke, what is it that's felt heavy? Because I know you mentioned something's been feeling a bit heavy. So what is it that's felt heavy for you over the last week? And if there's anything that's felt a bit lighter, maybe share that too. Okay. All right. So kind of stuff we've talked about before, and it's still coming up, I see. So I know you've shared that it's been really difficult letting go of this relationship, okay, with Danny. And sometimes you still feel like it's your fault, that it didn't work. Can you kind of walk me through maybe some of those moments when that feeling comes up the strongest? So, just kind of like paint me a picture, kind of walk me through those moments. Okay. So, what kind of comes up? What feels the strongest in those moments? Is it the sadness and the grief? Is it anger? What's coming up? Okay, so a little bit of disgust. I know we've talked about that. A lot of sadness and grief. And then, sure, yeah, the anger. It would make sense. So, where in your body do you notice anything kind of coming up for you? Any kind of physical sensations when you kind of find yourself feeling that sense of responsibility for the relationship ending? All right, so kind of in the pit of your stomach, and sometimes it moves into the chest. So if we were to do kind of some parts work, let's break it down here. What does that part of you tend to believe about why it didn't work? Okay, so we're kind of back to the unworthiness and the self-blame and still feeling like it's your fault. So let's just say this. If that belief had a voice, okay, what would it sound like? Okay. So it would sound kind of dull, but really heavy. Okay. How long have you known that voice, Jennifer? Yeah, it's been a long time. Because I feel like this is coming up, and this is a pattern I'm seeing with you, with this heaviness, this voice, this inner voice that tells you you're at fault. You should have known better. You should have done better. You should have been able to fix this. So, you know, it's not uncommon that this would still be coming up for you. So I want to normalize that for you, okay? And I know you beat yourself up, and I know no matter what I say, you're going to keep doing that until we do some work and some healing happens. But, I just keep doing what you're doing. We'll get through this. We'll work through this together, and I'll be by your side, remember, through this whole journey. So you're not alone, and you're definitely safe here. And everything you feel is going to be valid, and we're going to work through it, okay? So if that part of you tends to feel like it's my fault, I want to start looking at it from an angle of how we can start maybe leaning into that part of you with compassion and curiosity instead of judgment. Because I know you hate that part of you, okay? You've mentioned it to me before. You've actually used that word, hate. And what if for just a day, for just a moment, we leaned into that part and said, gee, why do you keep showing up and blaming yourself? Why do you keep doing that? And maybe lean in with curiosity and compassion instead of so much judgment. Maybe just a moment. I mean, I want you to know that all of this makes a lot of sense to me, that you'd be feeling this still, okay? So when we invest ourselves so deeply in a relationship, okay, I want you to remember this, especially one where we hoped to feel kind of finally chosen, right, by this other person. It can be incredibly painful when it ends, all right? So just know that this is all part of the normal healing process and the grief process. I know you felt alone. I know you don't have anybody to talk to, and that's how you're feeling, but we're going to work on that, okay? We're going to work on finding a safety network for you, a support network, all right? And we'll talk about some of those resources too, as we kind of move along in this process. But I just want you to know you're not alone, Jennifer. Everything you feel is valid, and this is all very normal. It's part of being human, okay? So when you're describing what you're describing, I want you to realize, Jen, this isn't weakness, okay? It's not weakness. It's not failure. It's kind of just the response of someone who is loved deeply, all right? So those of us who are very empathic people and we feel deeply and we love deeply and we love hard, this is what happens. It's not weakness and failure, okay? It feels like it, but we're going to move through that, okay? So if no one's ever told you this, I'm sure they have, and I might even have told you this at some point over the last 2 months, but just to remind you, what happened in this relationship, Jen, is not about you, okay? It says more about their capacity, all right? Their capacity, not your worth. It just has nothing to do with what you're worth, although I know it felt like that. I know, honey, I know. I know it can be very, very painful. Very painful. The pain can be so great that you just can't even imagine how you're ever going to get over it, but I can promise you, you will. All right? You're doing great. You're doing the only thing that you can do, which is here, and you're facing it, right? You're not trying to avoid it or discard it or disown it anymore. And that takes a lot of courage. So, we often internalize rejection like this. We feel like this rejection has to do with like unworthiness, when it's actually, all right, Jen, it's actually simply a reflection of the other person's limits, all right? It's just not your worth, not your value, it's their limits. So why don't we do this? Let's slow down just a little bit, okay? I'm curious, all right? When you find yourself kind of replaying these things, all right, that you were trying to fix in this relationship, replaying this over and over, you're trying to fix what happened, go back and wonder what could I have done different? Where did I go wrong? I'm curious, Jen, and I know I brought this up before, but I'm curious, is there a younger part of you in this story? Why do you think I would ask that? Yeah. Because a lot of this, Jen, does sound like the way that you grew up and the patterns and the dynamics between you and your father. All right? The constant need for this love and attention, and him not being able to show up and not being capable of giving you what you needed. Okay? And again, it wasn't because you did anything wrong or that you weren't worthy of so much. It's because he simply couldn't. He just didn't know how. He didn't have the capacity. All right? So somewhere in his story, he never learned. He never felt it. He never knew how to give it to himself. So he had nothing to be able to give to you. So yeah, I brought up that younger part because we do need to explore that a little bit. If you're willing and able, and when you're ready. But I feel like there's this younger version of you that's still trying to be enough for someone to stay. And you're trying so hard, so desperately hard to make someone stay. And it's kind of caused you to live in this state of like hypervigilance, and you never get to take a break. There's no rest. There's no space for rest. There's no freedom. There's no peace or serenity. And this is kind of why you feel anxious all the time. All right? So what if we gave this part of you just a little bit of space right now? All right? Space to just say whatever she wanted, whatever she needed. And maybe space to kind of receive what she needed. I know it feels awkward, all right? And it doesn't need to happen today. But as we kind of work through this process, we will explore some of these dynamics from early on in your life and kind of parallel them to what's going on now and why you show up the way that you do now, because you're going to see a lot of things and make a lot of connections, all right? We often, Jen, repeat the patterns that need healing. All right, and that's what I'm seeing a lot of in your story and how you're showing up now. It's like the same patterns are repeating themselves, and you're still this little girl who's desperate for love and is trying to get her needs met, okay? Your emotional needs. So just remember, all of this is very normal. You're not abnormal. You're not unusual. And I know you feel alone, but you're not alone in this. All right? So let me ask you this. How about if I assign you for homework? Do you think you'd be able to maybe speak to this part of you? Maybe just offer her a few lines of compassion at some point? Like maybe over the next week, let's say. So when these feelings come up, if you can just lean into it, okay? Breathe into it. Take a few deep breaths. Use some of those resources I gave you. And maybe just offer that younger part of you for just a moment a few lines of compassion instead of so much judgment and criticism. What do I mean? So like maybe times when you feel yourself going, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? I'm so stupid. I should have known better. I'm dumb. What did I do now? Maybe instead of that, lean into yourself in those moments and just say, this just has nothing to do with you. You're worthy of so much. This is about someone else, not you, right? You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to be validated. All right, maybe just a few lines of compassion, even if it's just something simple. It can just be 1 or 2 lines, okay? Because it's going to be a bit uncomfortable when you do these things for the first few times, all right? So is that something you feel like you could try? All right, and we'll see how it is. We'll follow up next week and kind of see how that went. So let me see. Would you be okay with maybe trying an imaginal exercise with me? I don't know. I just think it might be helpful. Yeah? All right. So just center yourself. Take a deep breath in. Ground yourself here in this moment. Bring to mind a moment in that relationship with Danny where you felt most responsible, okay? Whatever was going on, just a time when you felt most responsible, like everything was depending on you making it work. See if you can just observe it. Just let yourself be there. I want you to just notice. What are you feeling in the body? All right, if you notice anything at all, any body sensations, and then of course we can connect them to emotions. Okay, so kind of back to the heaviness, right? Okay. So the heaviness, and then it moves into the chest. You know, I feel like a lot of this is definitely the grief and the sadness. And we can even explore the emotion of disgust, okay, in the next couple sessions, which is a very painful and uncomfortable emotion to work through. But I feel like what's happening for you and the way you're describing things, you're feeling a lot kind of move up through the chest and up into the throat chakra. So we can explore a little bit of that as we go. And if we can kind of process some of that and just let me hold space for you to just feel what you need to feel, and we can move through some of that stuff, I think you're going to feel a lot better. All right. So in that moment though, aside from the heaviness, anything else anywhere in the body? Okay, so when you sit there for a moment, you feel like it goes to anger pretty quickly. When you feel the defenses kind of kick up. So it's like the sadness, and then the sadness is like something triggers you to want to protect and defend yourself, and then you get angry. And then the anger, you said, feels like it spreads kind of throughout the body, and you feel it in your hands. Okay, makes a lot of sense. So where do you feel the tension? Okay, so in the hands. Yeah, I feel like some cathartic release work eventually too would be very therapeutic and very helpful as well. So we'll talk more about that too. And, my hope for you is that we can have you kind of get back into your body and reconnect with these emotions that you've been moving away from, okay, since you were young. And, why do we do that? Oh, gee, I mean, look, when we're little and we experience things that are painful and uncomfortable, the survival part of us kicks in and wants to keep us from feeling that because we're trying to survive, right? So this survival ego part of us is interested in what's going to make me feel the best and what can I do right now to feel the best. And if things come up that are painful and uncomfortable, we're going to do what we can to push those things down in any way we can figure out how to do that. So, that's where we get into the adaptive behaviors, the maladaptive coping, and the defense mechanisms that we start to form, okay? So, if that version of you, let's get back into your body, all right? Back into this heaviness, this grief, this sorrow. You feel it in the pit of your stomach and it kind of moves into the chest, and it even becomes a little bit disgust as it moves through the throat chakra. If that had a color or a shape, what would it be? Okay, so a little bit green. Not a pretty green though, okay? So maybe like an ugly green, um, like an army green, okay. Maybe a little bit of blue, like the sadness, okay? And kind of globby, almost like sticky and heavy, okay. That just kind of helps me and helps you kind of connect to the emotion and connect to the physical sensations that come up around that emotion. It's really important that you get into your body and we start reconnecting to these emotions, and just let me hold space for you so you can just feel them. All right, it's not going to be comfortable, it's not going to be easy, but you won't be alone, right? I'm going to be here for you through this process. So look, I know letting go can feel a lot like failing, all right? Especially when you've tried so hard like you have. And look, not for nothing, you have a history of relationships where it's been one relationship after the other, and it's been this pattern of finding these same kind of people who are kind of avoidant, they dismiss you, they don't validate you, and it's like they're showing up in the same way your father did. And this is often what we do, and we do this on a level that's like unconscious. We're not even aware we're doing it. We just get stuck in this pattern, and your nervous system is stuck in this state of like, it moves almost between this state of like fight or flight and this hypervigilance, and moves down into this state of freeze at times. And you almost have this anxious and then almost sometimes fearful attachment style that surfaces, where it's a push-pull dynamic a bit, and then you become hypervigilant and then you work really, really hard to keep somebody, and you abandon yourself in the process. So look, I'm going to tell you this. You're doing great. This is not easy work. Any kind of trauma work, trauma healing, bringing this stuff to the surface is the hardest work anyone can ever do. Yeah, it's so much easier to just not deal with it. I hear you. But you got to give yourself a lot of credit, all right? I know there's a lot you're working through, but give yourself some credit for coming in here and pursuing this and wanting to work through this and signing up for that institute thing, that Hoffman Institute thing you did, all right? A couple weekends ago. I mean, that's amazing, amazing effort and a level of willingness. It's going to get you the healing that you deserve. So this letting go too, I promise you, Jennifer, it's going to be the best boundary you ever set. All right? You're way overdue and you deserve it. So, yeah, I hear you. I know you feel better after you come in here and you meet with me for a little bit. And I hear you. I enjoy this time that we get to work together and I get to hold space for you. I feel like, a lot of what you've needed at a lot of different times in your life was for just somebody to listen and to hold space for you and to make you feel kind of seen and heard and validated. You're way overdue, and this is what you've always deserved. I know it's emotional, but look at how great you're doing. Even when you don't feel like you are, you are. Okay? This is part of it's almost more painful and at first because you're actually sitting in the emotion that you've been avoiding for a long time. Not because you consciously intended to, but you unconsciously were almost directed to somehow try to avoid it because it was too painful. It got in the way of survival. So look, what if we co-created a new belief system for you? All right, so let's go back to that part of you. And you've told me before that when you're in touch with that part of you, especially that younger part of you, the belief comes up that you don't feel good enough and you feel like everything's your fault or you're to blame. What if we co-created together a new belief? So maybe something like, I don't have to earn love by rescuing people. Okay, I'm worthy just as I am. Okay, well, how does it feel to say that out loud? Or to imagine believing it? Okay, so a little uncomfortable, I hear you. So look, if that belief is a little too much, a little too far away right now, what's the gentlest version of it that maybe we can start with? Okay, all right, so I'll give you an example. Maybe something like, I'm open to the idea that I'm worthy, even if I can't really feel it just yet. That's something you can try? Okay. So I'm open to the idea that I'm worthy, even if I'm not really feeling it yet. Okay. Awesome. What would it feel like to practice that a little bit every single day? Okay, so over the next week before I see you again. So you have your lines of compassion, all right? That when that part of you kicks up and you feel the need to be self-critical, that inner critic comes up and starts saying things, and that inner dialogue is just very critical. You have your lines of self-compassion, but I also want you to use this new belief, all right? And you can just, again, if the first one was a little too much, maybe just, I'm open to the idea that I'm worthy, even if I can't feel it just yet. Can you try? Yes? Right? We don't get better by not practicing and trying. Okay. You can do this. All right? Look at how much you've already done. Look at how much you've already opened up and shared. This is very difficult stuff to deal with. That's why a lot of people out there are not dealing with it. All right? You're doing great. All right. So I want you to know, look, you showed up fully today, which is awesome. Okay? You showed up, you surfaced everything. You surfaced the grief. You spoke your truth. You showed up with willingness, okay, to explore these parts of you, the parts of your story, the stuff that hurts, okay? It's not small work. This is really brave work. Please, please know that. Next time, I want to build on this, maybe by grounding you more into your body, all right? And maybe identifying small, safe steps we can take toward kind of releasing that responsibility. All right, and we'll discuss some of the techniques we can use to do that. And we'll kind of start setting up too for EMDR here in the near future. I'd like to just invite you to do one more thing for me. Could you? All right, awesome. So I want you to place your hand over your heart. Take a deep breath for me. In through the nose, hold. exhale through the mouth. Good, Jennifer. I want you to name for me one strength you showed in session today. Just one. Oh, come on. Just one. Okay. I agree. You were very, very honest today. All right? Very, very honest. Even when it was painful. Even when you didn't want to be. Okay? You were very receptive. I mean, sure, do you show up with some defense mechanisms? Of course, but that's kind of normal and natural, and we'll kind of navigate through those together, and we'll slowly move those to the side, right? The main goal for you that I want to help you with is developing insight, okay, into what happened, what affected what parts of you, and what affected the whole picture, and why you show up the way that you do today, okay? The idea is not that you're broken. You're not broken, Jennifer. You're stuck, right? I want to help you get unstuck so you can experience the freedom that you deserve to feel. So before we close, is there anything else you wanted to discuss today? All right, how are you feeling? All right, so after all that, on a scale of 1 to 10, because I know you came in feeling a lot of stress. You were telling me over the phone. On a scale of 1 to 10, all right? Or actually, let's do the SUD scale, right? I've told you about the SUD scale. 0 to 10. 0 being no distress at all. 10 being the worst you can imagine. All right. So like a 4 or 5. Are you comfortable with it being a 4 or 5 for us to end session today? Okay. What is something that you can go home and do for yourself today, right? Self-care that we've talked about before. Something to just kind of keep your nervous system in regulation mode, okay? Keep you within your window of tolerance. So like a warm shower, maybe practice some of those lines of self-compassion, right? And maybe that new belief system, all right? So the new belief kind of being, I'm open to the idea that I'm worthy, even if I can't feel it yet. Right. So again, just know you did a lot of great work today. You're doing great work. I'm very proud of you. This is not easy. And even when your defenses kind of show up and surface, which is totally normal, Jen, you're becoming more and more receptive to feedback. It's happening less often. I mean, this is progress, okay? All right, this is the path of healing. It's what it looks like. It's messy, okay? It's not perfect. It's not linear. It's messy, right? So give yourself a break. I want you to go home and do those things that we talked about. Take a warm shower, right? If you feel yourself feeling a little bit anxious, remember ice is real helpful. You can put it kind of on the back of your neck or maybe on the top of your chest, right? That'll help with some of the anxiety. Some of the breathing exercises that we've done before, and some of the videos I've shown you on the YouTube that you can do with yourself and kind of follow if you want some, some guidance or a guide. So anyhow, thank you for showing up. You did beautifully. Right? Okay, thanks, Jen. I'll see you next week. Remember, you can reach out to me if you need me on my business line or through email. If I can't answer right away, it's just that I'm with another client, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can, I promise. Okay. Thank you, Jen. Okay, so that concludes my counseling session today. Thank you for bearing with me. I was moving a bit fast, I feel. It's a lot different when there's not actually somebody here. So I did the best that I could, but again, thank you for bearing with me. And as you could see, I kind of blend a few different styles and approaches. I've done a lot of EMDR work in the past, and it's almost like once you go trauma therapy, and you start speaking the trauma language and attachment theory and parts work, it's kind of hard to do anything else. You kind of get stuck in that and you continue to speak that language. So thank you for bearing with me. And I hope this was sufficient and at least showed you that I'm capable of some of these basic counseling competencies and skills. Hopefully I covered a little bit of everything enough to be sufficient for what's needed. So again, thank you so much, guys. Bye.